centuries have been the most creative people on this planet, and yet we've not really learned to sell our products. We were always busy working at the craft, and others were selling our products. Now, I think it's time that, as part of the government, we try and encourage people who can also sell their craft and showcase it right, exhibit it right. And for this reason, we've started this Biennale. This is going to be the first ever edition by Government of India. There are several biennales which have started across the globe. Venice, of course, is one of the most famous ones. But in addition to Venice, there is Sao Paulo, which is happening, Berlin, Dubai, and there are always cultural spaces which are there, and every city needs to have creative space, and those spaces need to be occupied by people. Delhi, for example, or all the other five metros have various spaces, but unfortunately, the crowd pulling is not happening the way it should happen. So there's a certain amount of sensitization program also for the public at large, and that sensitization will go a long way in protecting our heritage and creative spaces. Biennale is going to offer creative spaces to creative people. As of now, through crowdsourcing, we've got 560 inquiries. 260 artists have applied, and out of which the creative artworks which have been selected exceed 260, because each artist would have submitted more than one. And in addition to this, 150 artists or so have been shortlisted by the team. And there are 7 days. The program runs in 7 days, and there are 7 themes for 7 days. One of my favorite one is doors, gates, and cities. And why I would say this is interesting, that we all look at cities being overcrowded, too occupied, too many people. But the theme of doors and gates, doors and windows, is something which I feel doors is outward looking, and door is inward looking, and windows are outward looking. So both outward and inward interaction that happens in the cities is the way forward, and thus most of the cities in old times used to have gates and gated community, so that people could protect, people could conserve and savor their art forms. That is one. Then there's another which is called, this is called Pravesh, rites of passage. So every city would tax you to go in and come out and carry the traditions forward. So there's a historicity attached to this particular theme. The second is Baghe Bahar. Now you would recognize the fact that, of course, the curated gardens of Europe are much talked about, but India has a history of gardens, and history as in temples, palaces, much before medieval times and much beyond 400, 500 years. The gardens which were severed by Indian civilization is something to talk about. So again, historical perspective with the modern curated gardens, and thus Baghe Bahar, and that engulfs mythology, belief system, so on and so forth, which is a conversation around gardens. Samprava, and Samprava is confluence of Samprava. You can follow it from the Sanskrit or the Hindi word Prava of everything, Prava of every thought, Sangam, confluence of various aspects. So communities come together and discuss their contribution in art, culture, and climate ecosystems. Then Satpate, which is anti-fragile algorithm. We all know that how, in spite of challenges, the ancient architecture of India has existed even till date. So city planning from Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, Kalibanga, and several other cities across the country have survived in one form or the other, and many have survived on top of the earlier existing civilization. Purana Killa, for example, being part of Delhi, but Indraprastha existed at this very spot for many, many earlier times. And Satpatya is basically that algorithm which is talking about structures which have stayed beyond their times. And let's talk about these structures. And it's a cultural portal. Then Vismay, as we all understand, crossovers. There's a myth associated with it. There is a entrapment associated with it, and this is modern and post-independent architecture. Deshaj is Bharat Designs, which is contemporary face of indigenous art and design traditions of India. And this is also important that post-independence and little before independence and even contemporary, day to day, they are beautiful architectural buildings. If we do not secure them, they are beautiful pieces of art and craft. If we do not secure them, this very contemporary art and artistic form will become antiquated at some point in time. So history needs to be preserved, even present history needs to be preserved. For that purpose, Deshaj becomes important. And Samatva is shaping the build, which means the social design collaborations, and this is also a cultural portal. There are going to be several keynote speakers, experts in their respective fields. I'm not going into the detail. Many countries have sent their entries, mostly are coming from US, Italy, and Netherlands and other places. There are panel discussions on art, architecture, and design. There are workshops, and very interesting workshops which are curated thematically: Kavod, Ekebana, Kintsugi, Tanjore, Origami, Gond, Bhil, Madhubani. So these are, I wish a whole lot of us can join these workshops and sharpen our creative talents. And there are going to be open calls for artists for submitting their exhibition. There's going to be also student Binale. Many art and craft students, this is called Samunati, Samunnati, which is Barabar Ka Unnati or Barabar Se Unnati. So even students get an exposure at an early age, how to participate, curate their work, and also get an international exposure for developing their art and exhibit forms. Again, this will also involve dialogues, discussion, and conference. Public art aiming to enrich communities. So we are going to identify who have contributed to community living, and thus start a Foundation India and Memiraki. Art Bazaar, there can be no Binale without the bazaar. So there's going to be Art Bazaar. Small, big businesses can interact with each other for selling their merchandise, and others who can participate in purchasing the merchandise. And there's going to be business to business space, and there's going to be a general public space for this particular Art Bazaar. And Atmanirbhar Bharat Center for Design. This is an initiative facilitating Indian design and innovation, celebrating the rich, diverse handicrafts of India. Each of these 7 days and 7 themes are curated by some very, very eminent architects and design curators. Each is curated by a different person. For example, Pravesh is being curated by Aditya Arya. If any of you who's familiar with Gurgaon would have seen this Museo Camera Museum Center in Haryana, he's the one who's curating this particular theme, Pravesh, Rites of Passage. Baghe Bahar, as I talked earlier, is being curated by Anchita Nair, who's CEO of Kutur. And then Samprava is being curated by Ritesh Nanda, famous Aga Khan Foundation. Then Sthapatya is being curated by Amit Tasricha. And this also is very, very interesting because he's someone who's founder of India Lost and Found. I think the very theme of Binale is India Lost and Found, because India, in true sense, never got lost. It continued working silently, but lost in public eye, and thus focusing on exhibiting our strength is what where we feel the contribution of media and friends from the media will go a long way in sensitizing people and taking the theme forward. So India lost in public perception. It was always there, and we are trying to find it back in the greater imaginary of people, both within and outside the country. Vismay is being curated by Shikha Jain, who's the founder of Drona, and then Desaj is being curated by Anubhav Nath, founder of Ojas Arts. Then Samatva is being curated by Swati Janu. This is for the, uh, in terms of fact sheet. अभी जो कुछ मैंने आप सबके सामने प्रस्तुत किया वो भारत सरकार ने खास तौर पे संस्कृति मंत्रालय ने पहली शुरुआत की है एक डिज़ाइन आर्किटेक्ट बिनाले की। और वो पहली शुरुआत इसलिए है कि दुनिया भर में विभिन्न देशों के अंदर बिनाले होते हैं। वेनिस बहुत प्रमुख है, अभी जेदा में शुरू हो रहा है, साओ पोलो में हो रहा है, और दुबई में है, बर्लिन में है, तमाम देश जो हैं उनमें बिनाले है। हमारी एक प्रयास है कि जो सांस्कृतिक या कल्चर डिप्लोमेसी है उसको आगे बढ़ाने का, कि देश भर का जो आर्ट आर्किटेक्चर है वो अन्य स्थानों पर पार्टिसिपेट करे और देश दुनिया के जो लोग हैं वो भारत में आकर भारत की जो डिज़ाइन आर्ट आर्किटेक्चर की शैली है उससे परिचित हो। और जो हमारे आर्टिस्ट हैं उन्होंने हर चैलेंज के बाद, हर मुश्किल के बावजूद अपनी आर्ट फॉर्म को जीवित रखा है, और उसको जिन्होंने जीवित रखा उन सबको रिकग्निशन देने के लिए और आगे बढ़ाने के लिए इसका आयोजन किया गया है। तकरीबन 560 हमारे पास इंक्वायरी आई हैं और 260 के आसपास जो आर्टिस्ट हैं उन्होंने अपने सबमिशन जो है भारत सरकार को सबमिट किए हैं, जिसमें से हम लोगों ने, एक जो टीम है उसने 150 के आसपास आर्टिस्ट को चुना है और 260 से ऊपर कलाकृतियों को चुना है। 7 दिन 7 अलग अलग थीम और अलग अलग 7 विचार, और साथ ही इसके एग्जीबिशन स्पेसेस होंगे। इसमें एक जो है उसका नाम प्रवेश है एक थीम का, दूसरा नाम बागे बहार है, संप्रभा है, स्थापत्य है, विस्मय है, देशज है और समत्व है। और इसमें जो छात्र हैं उनका भी पार्टिसिपेशन रहेगा। विभिन्न जो विषय हैं उनके ऊपर जो स्पेशलिस्ट हैं, एक्सपर्ट्स हैं, वो आके डिस्कस करेंगे। और भारत का जो एक डिप्लोमेटिक कॉर्नर है आर्ट और क्राफ्ट और कल्चर का, उसको हमने दुनिया भर में पहुंचाने का जो है वो एक ये प्रयास है। और इस प्रयास में आप सबके सहयोग की आवश्यकता है, क्योंकि एक क्यूरेटर जो है वो फाउंडर है एक अपनी फाउंडेशन के, जिसका नाम है इंडिया लॉस्ट एंड फाउंड। मुझे लगता है कि इस बिनाले के प्रयास के पीछे यही प्रयास है कि जो भारत खोया तो नहीं था लेकिन कहीं छुप गया था, और जो धूल हमारे आत्मक है वो दुनिया तक पहुंचाने के लिए ये एक प्रयास है, जिसमें जो स्पेसेस होते हैं और उन क्रिएटेड स्पेसेस की वजह से वो शहर जाना जाता है। अधिक से अधिक लोग इन क्रिएटिव स्पेसेस में पहुंचे, म्यूजियम्स, गैलरीज उनके स्थान हो जहां वो चाय पीने के लिए या रविवार छुट्टी मनाने के लिए, शनिवार वीकेंड्स पे घूमने के लिए, बच्चों को सेंसिटाइज करने के लिए, विभिन्न आर्टिस्ट जो अपनी, हर व्यक्ति के अंदर आर्ट छुपा है। अगर कोई वर्कशॉप ज्वाइन करना चाहता है, घंटे 2 घंटे देना चाहता है, ऐसे लोगों के लिए भी वो जगह उपलब्ध हो। हम लोगों का प्रयास है कि इस एक ये माध्यम बने पूरे देश दुनिया के आर्ट कलाकृतियों को और दुनिया को जोड़ने का, और जो भारत की परंपराएं हैं उससे सब अवगत हो। और प्रधानमंत्री जी जैसे कहते हैं कि विकास भी और विरासत भी। तो अब जब भारत विकास की तरफ बढ़ चुका है तो अपनी विरासत को ना भूले और नए तौर तरीके जो विकास के हैं उन सब तौर तरीकों को इस्तेमाल करते हुए विरासत को जीवित रखते हुए और आगे बढ़ने का ये हमारा छोटा सा प्रयास है। और इस प्रयास में आप सब भागीदार बने, हमारे विचारों को और ऐसे तमाम आर्टिस्ट को देश दुनिया में ले जाने का काम करें। आप इसी के साथ आपका आभार, धन्यवाद। कोई आपके प्रश्न है तो मैं लेना चाहूंगी।